I don't know if we are, but
How's
welcome.
it going? How are you doing?
Hello.
I hope that you're well on this Friday that went from gloomy to pretty here.
Yeah, it did. We
yeah.
had some thunderstorms this morning.
Yeah, and now it's pretty out. So happy Friday. I hope that you're safe and well, and if you're in Alabama, I hope that you're staying extra safe because it's opening up like crazy.
I'm going to step back. I'm Justin.
And I'm Michelle.
Yeah, I work from Image in a Box, and I like how we talk about the new quarantine life. I don't know if it's new anymore.
No, it's old. It's like, I'm over it old.
Yeah, and it's starting to wear. We haven't ventured out much.
No, I mean, even with the opening up, I mean, because now, I think today, someone tell us in the chat, I think today it's like officially open pretty much every sector, every industry, like they're all open. Because I think I heard that.
I hope the virus doesn't go crazy.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been keeping close tabs on it because we have some high risk associated with our family and stuff, so we've been extra cautious and having littles, but I haven't noticed that it's, it doesn't seem like it's spiked at this point, so.
Yeah, that's always
But we haven't
positive.
ventured out much. We did finally get out and go do something, though. We went to the strawberry patch here locally and picked some strawberries, made some strawberry pound cake.
We went big.
My friend out there, Jessica, gave me the recipe for, and it was great and super yummy. I ate way too much, and now since I've actually been getting out a little bit more, put on jeans, and it was not, like, they don't fit as well as they have been in the past.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I can thank the baking and the recipe for the pound cake. It's definitely not helping. And plus, I think the monotonous flow is sort of starting to mess with my workout routine because I had all this like stamina because we were doing a Spartan race, and then that high wore off, and so I need to get back to like getting in the
It's just another day that ends in Y is what I've come to the conclusion.
Yeah.
And it's pretty funny because when we went to the strawberry farm, we were like, let's get 2 buckets, and I think each bucket's like 5 pounds of strawberries.
I don't know how much
it is,
a lot of strawberries.
but man, we got an overload of strawberries. So like Michelle said, we made the pound cake, gave one to our friend Wilson. If you're out there, Wilson, we're going to hit you up there in the comments. We just call him Wilson because his garage doors is inverted instead of going up. It's just sitting down.
Like if he peeks out, it's like this.
So for all those old school people who know about Tim
the
and
Tool
Time. Oh, yeah. Oh, it's good old shows. So how is the ukulele
It's
going
good. I'm finally getting to where now I can actually sort of sing without messing up. Like, I can transition and stuff without looking as much, but like transition chords. But I can't sing. It starts messing up my strumming pattern a little bit. So
that's okay. It sounds great.
Yeah, I'm having fun with it. I definitely am getting hooked, though. I mean, I play probably almost an hour every day. I seem to, maybe that's what's messing with my workout routine, actually. I'm like more interested in staying up late playing that instead of getting rest and getting up early to work out.
And it was pretty funny because she was playing today, and our oldest daughter came out today and was like, I'm going to get my ukulele. And she started playing. She was like watching Mommy's fingers and mirroring. I was like, this is going to be cool if she picks it up.
Yeah, so. She's interested in it. But anyways, yeah, having fun with that. You had fun this past weekend.
I did. Would you call that fun? Apparently that's fun, everybody. I planted 30 plants. I had the help of the manager. She's a really good manager of saying, go here, no, move it here, cut that hole a little bit deeper.
Move it 6 inches because we were too far away.
Yeah, so it was a lot of fun. We've got about 20-ish plants left. So we're going for
We're redoing all of our flower beds. And it's a lot of flower beds because we don't have a 2-story house, and the majority of our flower beds are all in the front. Like our the back of our house is really flat, and so there's not much at all on the perimeter that's in the back. So literally it's like the entire linear square footage of the house is like we're doing all of those flower beds.
I think I'm going to go back to baking instead of flower beds. It's a lot less back pain, and it tastes a lot better than dirt.
Yeah.
But I think that's what happened. I got my baking card pulled and said, "Go do your
Yeah,
work."
we've got to get it done. And good thing we did, because it's like downpour this week. It's been just a lot of rain. So anyways, well, like I mentioned, here in Alabama, there's been just tons of opening up. We haven't really seen a big spike in cases, but some people are still apprehensive. I don't know about you. I mean, we're still apprehensive. A lot of people I've talked to, the majority of them have seemed apprehensive. What about you? Like, do you feel apprehensive? Give us a thumbs up if you're like ready to go out, ready to do things, especially like going to the movies. Anything, just give us a thumbs up if you think that you're comfortable or you are, already getting out. Just sort of curious to gauge like how everybody else is thinking about this, because again, I mean, I've gotten so used to being apprehensive, and I was even listening to a podcast yesterday about, they were talking all about mindset and stuff like that, and basically she was talking about everybody keeps asking her like, when is it gonna be over and back to normal, and like when, and she's like, it's never gonna be back to like pre-COVID, even if there is like some normal pieces, but there will always be way more apprehension. You've been changed like as a person, and I never really thought about it like that. I thought it was just really interesting. So there's not something to wait for. It's really like something to determine your new and your comfort level and all those things. So just curious to sort of gauge everybody else's vibe to see what their new normal is. But with all the opening up, if you're a business owner and you are trying to gauge what you're going to do, there's definitely a lot of regulations that are being put in place, and it's going to be a bigger challenge to open than just to literally say I'm going to open the doors, because you've got to have a strategy in place or you can get in trouble and those kinds of things. So you don't want to make people sick or your team sick, so you've really got to think about a lot. So there's so much busy work per se to opening up. So we essentially wanted to come today to talk a little bit more about what we talked about last week, but more in depth on the automation side, because everybody has worked so hard to this point. They've been forced to really be creative and forced to, overcome the boundaries of technology and come up with ways to easily do some virtual options and creative options that were some sort of virtual offering of what they might have offered in person, or not virtual per se, but curbside and those sort of things. So essentially we wanted to talk about how you can actually keep those things going, because you're going to have those early adopters that are comfortable and get out more quickly, and then you're going to have the late adopters. So you don't want to leave the late adopters hanging just solely because you've got people coming in the store now and you've got so much work there to keep that going. So essentially, like, how do we we're going to talk about tools to help you make that virtual stuff easier, because if it's easier, then you can keep it going, because you're going to have so much work on your hands that you can't be like answering the phone all the time to handle those virtual offerings.
So the biggest thing is we want to use tools that are already out there, that are tried and true, because you're going to be dealing with customers who are still uncomfortable with different styles of your offerings. So that's where you can use the power of technology and to automate some tasks that you were doing when you had nobody in the store, or nobody in your restaurant, or no one calling you, like just things to help you keep revenue up. So
I mean, and even take those and think even longer term. You don't want to, you put a lot of effort in the stuff that you did worked. So don't be short-sighted and just be like, okay, we're past that, and I'm gonna move on. Like, continue to build on that momentum while going back to some of the normalcy that was normal before all this, but then also like taking that long term. And I can't stress that enough. I know we've talked about that over and over, but I'm reiterating it because I do think it's so important. And so that's why we wanted to talk about some tools that would help you make that so much simpler. So
right. So there's really two types of virtual offerings that you sort of benefit from, that you can benefit from, that we learned about these offerings. What are some of those tools or the offerings that you can benefit from the automation side?
Well, so essentially with the virtual offerings, there's two different types of offerings that I saw most across the board with, different types of industries and everything. So that anybody that was very heavily B2C, you saw a lot of people in that space either doing a grab and go style, which was they took what they offered in person and converted it into some form or fashion of something where you could come and pick it up with a contactless delivery system or whatever, so that you could do grab and go. And then there was the people that were going to be, especially more of your service-based businesses or your B2B type businesses, that did a lot more focus on virtual offerings. So they basically turned everything virtual, or if they were, say, B2C, where their space was more of like an attraction where you actually like had to be there to be immersed in their event or their venue, then they were doing a lot of virtual components around that. So an example of that would be, if you're an art museum and you had an exhibit open during this pandemic period, then they would be like actually showing you, walking around, doing a virtual tour of the actual pieces that were on exhibit. So those are really like the two styles, main categories, if you will, that you would put the styles of virtual offerings that we saw most frequently.
Right.
I mean, and I really think most of them can be classified in those two categories. So essentially, there's tools and things to think about, strategies to think about in both of those categories, and so that's a little bit what we can talk about today.
So let's dive into what the automation could look like around the grab and go concept.
Okay. Yeah. So the grab and go, there were a lot of things that you can do there, but what I saw most people doing with those grab and goes is, since it was such a quick adoption rate, you had to just be agile and just move and figure it out. A lot of people were doing mainly phone calls for those sorts of things. If they didn't already have an established arm of, say, if you're a restaurant, curbside pickup, or if they didn't have an established e-commerce store, if they had a brick and mortar building for whatever they offered. And so if you didn't already have that e-commerce capability to do the grab and go, a lot of people were just doing phone orders.
Yep.
And so you would pick up the phone, call, and I mean, these people were literally working, probably multiple people full time answering the phone. Anytime I went to any restaurant, because that was the main places that I went in that time span. So I'm sure it was the same way with some of these other places that did more of like I saw Spirited Art was doing, their little art kits.
Right.
And you could like watch a video, I believe.
We saw a couple cookie places and bakeries doing like cookie decorating kits, activity driven ones as well. But like one funny thing I heard from a restaurant was like, we can't answer the phone. Like people are getting busy signals. They're having to call again.
And so, but when I did go to the restaurants, I saw so many workers just sitting there literally answering phone call after phone call after phone call. So when you open up, you're not going to have that. You're not going to have someone that can literally stand there and do this. It's going to be way more chaotic in your restaurant, because you're going to be so worried about the distancing and all of these rules that in itself is going to make your brick and mortar, your retail, whatever it is that's physical, it's going to make that so much more stressful, on your team. So the last thing you want to do is also have them answering the phone. But then again, you don't want to leave those people hanging that aren't going to come to your store, because maybe they've been a big portion of your, promoters and big loyal fans. So you don't want to leave them hanging. So essentially, you've got to figure out how to not have that phone call portion, or not have like that social media messaging portion that you have to follow up with. And so there's going to be several different ways that several different routes that you could go for that style on the grab and goes. You could do the e-commerce. You could have some chat bots that automate some ordering on your website, or even Facebook. Facebook chat bot, they have their own chat bot aside from just, there's tons of other chat bots that you can put on your website. But Facebook has one as well. And so I feel like there's sort of like 3 levels. So obviously, initially, proving the concept was like
number 1.
Yeah, number 1, and like calling us. Order it, call us, and you've proved the concept worked and people wanted it.
And if you think about that, you tested a whole new revenue stream.
Yeah, and so don't let it go. So then you've got to graduate to the next step. And the next step might be doing more of like a Facebook Messenger chat bot, where it's going to basically, you could do different things with that. And then the third step could be more of like a e-commerce setup that's going to be more robust, but that's way long term. So thinking about maybe an example of that, what can an example of a Facebook chat messenger look like?
Yeah, so with the Facebook Messenger, there's a bunch of automation tools around that can work directly for you. I'm going to use the examples. We saw one of the bakeries here do a grab-and-go decorating kit. It was very specific to, I think, March during that time, maybe. It might have been a spring decorating kit. But if you think about it from that standpoint, you could easily set up the chat bot to respond to when someone says, I want cookies, or I want the cookie kit. Okay, and then the chat bot could easily, and you fill these steps out, if someone triggers the words of cookie kit, then I could respond, the bot would respond with, okay, which kit would you like out of the 3 we offered? This is what we talked about in the social post. Then it could say, okay, how many kits would you like? You might want more than one. Don't just assume
Don't
one.
judge.
Right? And then the bot could then come back and say, okay, what time would you like to pick it up? These are our times that we're open. At that point, the chat bot handled every interaction back and forth. You then could tell the messenger bot, now send it to so-and-so to handle
on your team,
these orders.
to process it.
If you think about it, let's do the inverse. If we didn't use automation, I'm Justin, I'm behind the bakery, I can answer you. Hey, Michelle, how many kits would you like? Okay, Michelle responds with 1. Oh, someone comes in the door. I have to put my phone down because the customer's coming in. Now, Michelle is sitting there saying, hello?
Where are you?
Anybody there? Can I pick it up today, or do I have to get it tomorrow? Like, at that moment,
And
Michelle
then
might leave.
Right, and then their kid screams and they run off and get distracted, and then by the time you message back or your
it's
team,
10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, and then there's no one there.
So if you think about it from that use case, the chat bot can help you facilitate them all the way through the order. And don't get complex. Don't go crazy. Keep it very simple. Your messaging around this should be, hey, you can start a chat with us. Just tell us what kit you'd like.
Right.
As simple as that. It doesn't have to be complex. That's down the road once you perfect this.
Right.
But if you think about it, like Michelle said, you prove the model, keep that model going.
Right.
So that's your first step. The second step is now how can we make it easier for our staff to handle the online and the face-to-face customers. At that moment, you can designate that one person, and then you can say, you know what, we can increase volume. Let's do themed ones. 4th of July is coming up here soon. Why not make this into a full year model instead of just during the pandemic? Take that trial and error that you learned and push it forward, and then next thing you know, you could easily turn it into a subscription model.
Yes.
That's guess huge. What? Instead of doing 4 years, say for the seasons, you could turn it into once a month decorating kit. Simple. Then you could get the subscription model running. Then you have guaranteed orders.
Right. Yeah. Because you could even start small with that. And if you have perishables, there's sort of limitations geographically because of the travel time and shelf life and that kind of thing. But if you think about it from something that you do that might not be, like, for instance, the spirited art or something like that. Like if it's not actually physically has to be, eaten within a certain time period or whatever, like you could ship those easily. So then you open up your whole market. To a way bigger market. So we can come out a lot stronger on the end the end game. I know, no doubt, that all of this it was all about survival mode, and it was very rough, and the ride was not smooth. But the biggest thing is you figured out something that worked. Why not be strategic and long-term thinking, growth mindset, like thinking even bigger, and let's set goals to attain for you going forward.
Yep.
That would actually drive that to be something way bigger than what you were even originally thinking. And then again, just with this automation piece, I think a good intermediary step between going full-blown e-commerce is really to do some simple automation within the Facebook manager, the Facebook chatbot system, and that would allow you to get some traction and get some automation going. And then there's other tools too that you can also, once they order it, you could hook that into, say you didn't want to have the Facebook Messenger then send it to a staff member. You can also do Zaps with Zapier. So if you haven't ever checked that out, your world will be changed. I have to.
You can almost integrate every single tool out there.
Yeah, so if you haven't ever been to Zapier.com, so that's Zapier. If you've never been there, please go check it out, because there's so many things that you can automate and connect. And so you can connect with Facebook and stuff like that, so that you can actually say, well, I want that order to be sent via email to this email address. Yep. So that you could do it differently. So you don't have to just solely keep it in the Facebook hemisphere or whatever, but you could take it out pretty easily with a Zap.
Right. So Zapier is a good one. There's other ones out there. If you're already using one, check to see if your platform works with that. But again, you gotta look into this tool. It will literally, wait a minute, I could take a value from here and put it to here and not manually do this?
Yeah. It's pretty cool. I mean, in that alone. So we'll pause here. We'll drop the mic and move on. No.
I got about that phone mic. I want to do that.
We have the blow up one. That would be perfect.
I don't know why we've never used it, guys.
No. So Zapier.com. Check that out, and it will automate your whole entire world, so you don't even have to worry about watching the rest of this live.
So with that, we're going to switch gears a little bit, and we're going to go into the freebie stuff that we talked about, that you did all these things. So what does it look like, the automation, for all those freebies that were virtual?
So this one is a little bit different, because it's not going to be one that's just as clear cut as the grab and goes. Because with that, it's like, that you already really proven a whole product model, and now let's go elaborate and grow that. So it's not the same setup or whatever. But with this, it's more of thinking strategically and being really smart, is what I think. Because with this case, the biggest hurdle a lot of times is all the content generation. Right. And since
because you don't have time,
right, and you had a lot of time and a lot of forced time, because you might have been really stressed out working literally around the clock, because you were so worried about the company that you work for or the company that you own, and so you were so worried that you were really working around the clock, and even not being shy about the technology piece, because a lot of times people don't even want to deal with it. The technology, it's just whatever, we'll pay somebody later and figure all this out, or whatever, or we keep procrastinating because of the hurdle.
I need to do something else.
Right. So there was always more fires, and since this being more virtual and setting up all the technology has been accomplished, and then also setting up all those virtual tours that you've said for years that you were going to do and never did. So now that you actually have set all those tours up, now let's not just be okay, we've opened our doors and this is great. Let's go back to normal. No, let's take all those things and take a step back and go, okay, well, what am I going to do to continue to do these virtual freebies on an ongoing basis? Now, obviously, it doesn't have to be as heavily,
right.
You don't have to be doing one every day or every
or
week or
every, as much as you
right. You don't have to do it as frequently as you were, but how are you going to do it seasonally or monthly or bi-monthly, whatever? Figure out how you're going to continue to do it, because you have figured it all out. So don't just stop. But then you also have to think, well, I also have all of this great content now of all these tours, all these things, all these live classes that I've done, or live readings of things. I know the library was doing tons of great things around that. Churches were doing so much more with virtual sermons and all,
Right.
and lessons and all these great things. So you have all these things now in virtual format. So now you've got to be like, okay, I have all this stuff in great digestible form because it's all in video format.
What?
So I need to work that into my sales and marketing
Yep.
queue, and basically set up, tons of automated workflows and sales campaigns that are going to be very specific about providing these useful sales-oriented type emails that you're basically showing them firsthand how they could benefit from getting a membership to your
Right.
museum. Because I used the museum example earlier. So if you're a museum and you did all that, then you want to basically provide all these virtual tour options and provide a bunch of emails around all those so that they can see how awesome it is, but that they actually, it will drive their interest even more to come to your facility when they're comfortable to do that. And so it allows you to do some automation in your marketing, in your sales, because now you have all that content to fill the gaps, and it's good content in such a way where it's real, it's raw, it's not so formal, because sometimes that can turn customers off by being so
Like
perfect.
It looks too good.
Right, so like it's going to be raw, it looks good, and then you might want to put some overlays on it and stuff like that, but you have the bulk of the work there done. So don't leave it. I can't stress that enough. Don't just be like, okay, we're moving on. One, work it ongoing into your virtual strategy now. Keep that in place, and then also figure out how you're going to work it into your marketing and sales.
So, and one of the biggest things that struck me about this is that people generated so much content for every different stage because they had to.
Right, the stage of the sales cycle.
Stage of the sales, or even just saying who you are to brand new people. Because if you think about it from the bakery side, or even from a restaurant side, you might have showed your food in a different medium that you're normally not, because you had people coming in.
Right.
You generated all this stuff that is raw. It's not like our beautiful, perfect brick wall here.
Or old school.
Intercom.
Old school intercom.
Lost me on that. But with all this content, putting it into your marketing is key, but then using those automation tools is the next step.
Yeah, so it is basically taking it the step further to automate it, so then long term you're not having to nag all of your sales team to be like, hey, did you send all those emails? Or from a marketing perspective, you're nurturing these leads as they come in. And then, you can even start running different ads on Facebook and Google
got videos now.
and YouTube with those videos, that raw video. And then you can start generating leads specifically from that freebie that you generated. So now it's basically, we were in engagement mode and crisis mode, where we were trying to make sure that you as a customer didn't forget about us, or you stayed ingrained in our community and didn't, if you had some kind of subscription model or something like that, you tried to engage them enough so that they would continue to pay for their subscription to your system. And so if you had that set up, then you were in survival mode then. So how do you basically take all that and make it last for the long term?
Yeah. And so again, Zapier can help with some of that stuff. Some of the email automated platforms too can help with that. The marketing automation platforms out there too can help with that process, and most of those love video. I mean, we say video a lot because that's what we generally had to generate during the pandemic.
Well, right, because everybody was doing so much with like live. They were doing like a live recording of this or a virtual version of this, and so to be virtual, it had to be video. Right.
So, but if you created new PDFs or new content like that, don't discard those. Mm-hmm. Don't discard that process too. Again, all this good stuff that was forced out of each company can be used in that sales process or in your drip campaigns or even in saying, this is who we are. So I don't want you throwing that away. I can't stress that enough.
Yeah. I mean, and it could just be really valuable. So I think that
and keep the freebies going.
Yeah.
You probably saw it work. And if you didn't see it work, I want to mention this. If you didn't see it work right away, go back and look at what you offered and maybe tweak it.
Yeah.
Don't give up. Again, you did great during this pandemic, so keep it going.
Well, and another thing too about the freebies is that a lot of times people are always scared to give the product or the experience away because they're afraid it would keep people from purchasing from them. I know that a lot of times that is like a big model, a train of thought, you know, a old train of thought that's like ingrained in a lot of us. And so being forced to have to give it out openly may make you realize you can be comfortable with that and people will still engage and still buy from you. Now, some people won't, but more than likely they weren't going to begin with. So, you know, that's why we're saying continue to keep that freebie model open, because maybe this, if you're a marketer, maybe this got your boss more comfortable with the idea of doing that stuff. So keep that comfort level open. Let's maximize the results from what happened with the freebies that you were giving away, and let's continue on. And then let's automate it so that your marketing team doesn't have to like spend tons of time building all these emails. Then you automate it and it's great. It's ready to go anytime that you can basically walk leads that come in through the funnel and get them sales qualified with this great content.
Yep, I agree. So let's recap.
Yeah,
our call
because we
today.
talked about a lot of different things today.
We talked about Wilson. We talked about flowers and planting a lot. We talked about ukuleles. No, the serious stuff. So we talked about the grab and go concept and how you can turn that model into a long-term effort and try to use automation tools to reduce the load on your staff as stores are opening back up, and then also keeping that line of revenue coming in because you want to attract those people who still aren't comfortable. This is a great way to keep that going. And then the other side is the freebie, and those were, you've generated all this content, now let's incorporate that content throughout the website, throughout your marketing, throughout your ads as well.
So, and your sales.
And your sales process, sorry. So you want to not just stop, and we've talked about that every live we've done, is don't stop what you've been doing.
Yes, please.
Keep it going, because every time there is a crisis like this in the world, companies that keep pushing come out on top.
Yep.
So that's why we're so passionate about reinforcing is you survived, you fought through it, keep it going. You probably actually found an all-star on your team who helped you achieve all this. Give them the keys and let them keep running with it.
Yeah.
So, again, maximizing your time with automation tools.
Yes.
Zapier, I always flip it around in my head.
Zapier makes you happier.
It does, because it does automate a lot of stuff.
Yes, please go check it out. I can't stress that enough, and you can send me a DM to say how happy you are that you found Zapier.
Yes, found Zapier. Put automation into your life and it will make you happier. So, and one thing I like to do when I think about automation is if I have to repeat a task, copy, paste, that probably can be done by Zapier.
Yes. Yes.
So
you can think even further than just your marketing or anything like that with Zapier. It's not just a marketing automation tool, because it's not a marketing automation tool. It's an automation tool for all kinds of things. So think your accounting, think your Google Sheets, like certain things.
Think everything.
Yeah, think
everything. Don't question it back. Well, this isn't available.
Go look. So we'll give you homework.
There we go. Homework.
And we'll see you next week, and then we can talk all things about Zapier. No, I'm just joking. I'm not gonna go there.
So, signing off from the back porch.
Yep.
I'm Justin.
And I'm Michelle. See you guys next week.